Thank you, Joey. Welcome to the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for November the 12th, 2024. We're going to begin by calling the roll. Alderman Barnhill. Here. Alderman Blanton. Here. Alderman Caesar.
Here.
Alderman Peterson.
Here.
Alderman Berger.
Present.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Present.
Alderman Potts.
Present.
Alderman Baggett.
Present.
And the mayor's present also. We're going to begin now with the invocation. Followed by that, we're honored to have the Winston Choir here, and I will ask Alderman Caesar to introduce them prior to them singing, and then I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance. In fact, no, I'm going to ask you to do the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, and that way I can. No, I changed my mind. Because I've got to stay down here for a proclamation.
Give it and take it away.
So, being iffy, huh? Okay, well, let's begin by standing, and Alderman Barnhill, please lead us in the invocation.
Would you bow? Heavenly Father, we come to you. Thank you for this great nation that we live in and for the many opportunities that we have. We know that we are truly a blessed nation. We give you thanks for providing these opportunities and these blessings for us. We also ask your blessings upon those who protect the freedoms that we so cherish, the military, our first providers, those people who are the first ones on the scene to take care of a problem if we have one. We also ask your blessings upon each of us as aldermen, the decisions we make. Give us spiritual wisdom and guidance. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Alderman Caesar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the parents and fans of the Winstead Singers for coming out today. It was just a few days ago I had the opportunity to watch the full chorus perform an outstanding Veterans Day rendition of magical songs, and I'm excited to have them here tonight to share a great rendition of the Star Spangled Banner with us tonight. There are almost 20 young people here tonight. We're glad to have them in our board meeting room here. I do believe, I don't want to speak for our city administrator, but when we first raised this idea with the mayor and the city staff, they did express one requirement. And the one requirement is that if you all are to sing tonight, in just a few short months, this city hall will be demolished and we'll be rebuilding a new city hall. And if you're to sing tonight, it is a requirement that you come back in about 2.5 to 3 years and sing in the brand new city hall. And so keep your finger on the pulse of the city hall progress, knowing that you're going to be a part of that. And without further ado, Ms. Gutierrez, thank you for bringing your beautiful voices with us tonight.
Say, can you see by the dawn's
Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and please help me with it. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wow. Thank you so much. Y'all are great. Thanks for coming. What a great way to start a meeting.
I got chills.
Wow. The next item on the agenda is setting the agenda, and I would ask to consider a motion to approve the agenda as published. If not, I would entertain a motion otherwise. So,
So moved?
Second.
thank you, Alderman Berger, for the second. Any other discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton. Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. I have no citizen speaker cards for items not on the agenda. I have no communications from the Williamson County Commission. That gets us to the minutes, and so we'll look for a motion to approve the work session and the Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting for October the 22nd, 2024. Is there a motion?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Alderman Potts. Is there a second?
Second.
Alderman Vice Mayor Brown is seconded. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton. Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Yes.
Alderman Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett. Passes unanimously. We'll now go to recognitions for Fire Prevention Week contest winners. Are you taking it over for this, Andy?
Chief is going first.
Okay, all right. I'll move out of the way. Momentarily.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Board of Mayor and Aldermen, the Franklin Fire Department is excited to announce the winners of our Fire Prevention Helmet Shield Design Contest. This year's theme was smoke alarms. Make them work for you. We invited students in grades K through 8 to create designs that illustrated this important message. We want to recognize and thank Atmos Energy for sponsoring this contest. And we're pleased tonight to have two of their representatives here with us, Public Affairs Manager Christina Christensen and Operations Supervisor Joey Sims.
The first place winners are awarded one from each grade level. Each winner will receive a $50 Visa gift card, compliments of Atmos. In the kindergarten level, George Daggermengi. First grade, Eden Minor. Second grade, Lily Kraus. Third grade, Roger Henderson.
There you go.
Fifth grade, Carter Horseman. Sixth grade, Ponsica Baranitaran. And seventh grade, Hadley Hewitt. Congratulations to all the winners. The grand prize winner, and unfortunately, the grand prize and the runner-up are not able to be here tonight, but we still want to recognize them again, and that is Mithran Barnaridaran. His winning design is featured on Sparky the dog's fire helmet located at the back of the room. So be sure to take a look at that on the way out. It'll be soon it'll be displayed at Franklin Fire Station 8, which is located out in the West Haven community. He has won a plaque and also a $100 Visa gift card. Our grand prize runner-up is Ponchika Banitaran, and we also have a plaque for her as well. Everyone's up for a group photo, and so we'll do that.
right. Okay, let's get the mayor in there. Smiles in 3, 2, 1.
Good stuff. Next is a proclamation for Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day, and I'd ask Christina and Cody Ayers to come up to accept this proclamation. Whereas in 2024, an estimated 66,440 people will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in the United States, and 51,750 will die from the disease. And whereas pancreatic cancer is one of the deadliest cancers, is currently the third leading cause of death in the United States, that's cancer death, and is projected to become the second leading cause around 2030. Whereas pancreatic cancer is the only major cancer with a 5-year relative survival rate of just 13%, and whereas symptoms of pancreatic cancer present themselves, it is generally in later stages, and 91% of pancreatic cancer patients die within the first 5 years. And whereas approximately 1,390 Tennesseans will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, resulting in 1,120 deaths from pancreatic cancer in Tennessee in 2024. Whereas the good health and well-being of the residents of the city of Franklin are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness, now therefore I, Dr. Ken Moore, Mayor of the city of Franklin, hereby proclaim November the 21st, 2024 as Pancreatic Cancer Awareness Day, and encourage all citizens to become aware about the symptoms and risks of pancreatic cancer and research into early detection, causes, and effective treatments. Okay, we'll now go to miscellaneous reports, and I'll return to the dais.
Mr. Mayor, while you're doing that, can I offer a couple reports here? First, I just want to urge folks, we are continuing our special census. So if you have not, please take the minute or less that it takes to register yourself as a citizen of Franklin. Just can go to our website, franklintn.gov, and you'll see it right there. Click on it. All we need to know is who lives in your house. And that will help us capture our fair share of state taxes you are already paying. The state pays out what's called shared revenues to communities based on population at about $175 per person per year. And we know our population has grown. And if we can document the number that we think we are in terms of population, that could mean over $1 million a year of revenue that, again, taxes we're already paying to come back to help pay for vital services and support our community. So take that time, scan that QR code that's on the screen, or go to our website and do that for us. That would be greatly appreciated. And again, it'll take you less than a minute. One other thing I want to touch on, or two other things I want to touch on. As you know, and we talked a little bit about tonight, the City Hall project continues, and we have already begun relocating some functions of our city. We have moved our traffic operations center 2 weeks ago over to the police department, and last week we moved City Court over to the police department as well to operate out of that space. And this morning, we successfully held our first city court session at the police department, and all went very, very well. So that is underway. Folks, that if you have a city court appearance, you'll now be going to our police headquarters for that at those times. And then finally, I just want to make a comment. Franklin is a great place. We saw that with the kids who sang here today and the Veterans Day Parade we had yesterday. Special thanks to WAKM, who helps us put that on, and our city team, our special events team, Monique McCullough in particular, who helps lead that group. Just really an awesome, awesome day, and my personal favorite of all the special events we do across the city. But thanks to our team, thanks to the community for a very special time.
Any other miscellaneous reports? Seeing none, we'll go on to item number 5, which is consideration of election of the vice mayor pursuant to the city charter, Article 4, Section 5. But before I entertain a motion, I would like to thank the current vice mayor, Vice Mayor Brown. He's been indispensable in helping me, mayor, when I wasn't available, and certainly appreciate that availability, and also the fact that even whenever you didn't cover for me, you were there in many situations. So I think it's a special thank you for covering for me when I needed to be covered, and thank you for your prayers that I didn't drop dead.
Or get hit by a bus.
Well,
So
I'll
now-
just say I appreciated serving the city in the extra capacity, but more importantly, I'm grateful that you were healthy all year and didn't need me in the extra capacity. So
What Dana McLennan
Yeah.
used to say, it's the job of the vice mayor to pray for the health of
that's
the mayor.
exactly right.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, I'd be glad to nominate Jason Potts, Alderman Jason Potts.
Appropriate motion.
I'll second.
Any other nominations?
Thank you.
Seeing none, declare the nominations closed and entertain a voice vote for vice mayor for Jason Potts. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations,
Bye.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Great sitting next to you. I'll get my partner back. Yeah. Welcome home, Matt. It's been a-
Congratulations, Jason.
Good to be home.
Good to be home.
Okay. You might consider church service tonight after the meeting.
I will begin praying for you now.
I appreciate that. As far as the appointments to the Board of Mayor and Alderman committees, I am going to keep the same assignments that you've had in the past unless there's some objection. If there is, we can reconsider that.
All happy.
And the appointments to the Franklin Beer Board will also remain the same moving forward. So we'll now go to the consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we do need a motion to vote on the beer board.
Okay,
Motion
thank
to
you.
approve the existing officers on the beer board for another term.
Second.
Appropriate motion by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to the consent agenda, and all items under the consent agenda are deemed to be non-controversial and routine in nature by the governing body. They'll be approved as recommended by committee or staff by one motion of the governing body. Tonight, we're looking at items 16 through 24. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Brown. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to item 8. This is a public hearing, consideration of Resolution 2024-82, a resolution initiating the annexation process and draft plan of services for the possible annexation of 17.4 acres located north of Clovercroft Road, west of John Williams Road, at 4038 and a portion of 4040 Clovercroft Road. Chelsea?
Good evening. The property being considered is located north of Clovercroft Road and west of John Williams Road at 4038 and 4040 Clovercroft. 4038 Clovercroft is currently vacant, and it's owned by the Thales Academy, while Franklin Christian Church is located at 4040 Clovercroft and is selling a portion of 4040 Clovercroft that the applicant's requesting as part of the annexation into the city. These properties are non-contiguous to the city limits and are within the city's urban growth boundary. The properties are within the mixed residential design concept as defined by Envision Franklin Land Use Plan. Envision Franklin states that mixed residential design concept contains residential neighborhoods with a combination of single-family dwellings, big houses, duplexes, and townhomes. The defined character across the design concept may vary by neighborhood, but new development should transition from existing development patterns in adjacent neighborhoods. It's the intention of the applicant to develop approximately 10 single-family residential homes using the land at 4038 Clovercroft and a portion of 4040. These properties were brought forward for annexation initiation in December of 2023, and the annexation initiation was not approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. 4038 Clovercroft was granted sewer availability for one single-family unit equivalent in 2020, contingent on a signed and recorded annexation agreement that's now expired. There is also an annexation agreement for the property located at 4040 Clovercroft Road. If the developer would like to include a portion of the church property into their development of 4038, staff recommends that the entire parcel, inclusive of the church, be annexed into the city as CI, which is fitting of a church. Then once annexed, the church shall subdivide under the city regulations, and once subdivided, the new lot could be consolidated into the proposed subdivision of 4038 Clovercroft through a PD. Annexing the entire 4040 Clovercroft property allows for a more cohesive review of the future proposed development at 4038 and the specified portions of 4040 Clovercroft, especially with regard to access points, traffic circulation, and utilities. Should the Bowman not wish to proceed with annexing all of 4040 Clovercroft and wishes to only annex the specified portion, the area of land to be included in this annexation must be subdivided prior to annexation to ensure that the county standards for the remaining lot and the associated site plan are still met. A draft plan of service is included as an attachment. The plan of service outlines how the city will serve the properties requesting annexation and any additional infrastructure that would be required for new development. This property is in the Watson Branch Drainage Basin, which is almost entirely composed of city properties. This property is one of the few remaining to be annexed, and as such, this drainage basin was not studied as part of the annexation capability analysis. Staff generally recommends that properties in this area should be annexed when requested by the property owner to help complete existing voids in the city limit boundaries. The properties lie within the Mill Crofton Utility District and would need to follow their guidance on extending water infrastructure. Sanitary sewer could be extended across Clovercroft, and these properties include future roadways listed on the major thoroughfare plan. And annexing these properties would continue to complete an area of UGB that is surrounded by existing city limits. Staff recommends that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approve Resolution 2024-82. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. This is a public hearing. I have a number of people that want to speak, and I'd ask them to line up. That's John Williams Jr., Mike Inch, Janice Williams, William Burke, and Bill Collins. And I would ask you to address your comments concerning initiating the annexation process and draft plan of services. Mr. Williams, you have 2 minutes.
I've heard from old timers saying that if you've dug yourself in a hole, to stop digging. Developers, your planning department, and your board have dug yourself in my community into a hole. Unfortunately, for some, that hole was a grave. This traffic has been forced upon us and is killing us and the people that travel this section of Clovercroft. Every day, first responders are working accidents from Wilson Pike to 96. Why? Because too much traffic for a horse and buggy road is recklessly running down a road never intended for this use. Another saying that I want you to also remember is I've heard and I saw signs in hospitals from Hartford to New Orleans that I worked in, STAT. The sign says bad planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. Well, this was put there because it was intended for young doctors that seem to think that the magic word made us jump to attention and to do breakneck things to cover last-minute bad decisions. Well, folks, again, bad planning has caused a stat situation here. People die if you don't stop piling tall and skinnies in areas that can't handle it. Traffic studies don't account for entitled drivers looking to beat the next guy down the road to get ahead. Next little phrase that I've heard for so many times is, we want to be good neighbors. If I had a dime for that every time I heard that phrase, I could have paid for for all the Vaseline I needed after they got through with us. Franklin Christian is the latest contender for the worst use of this phrase. Most recent is last year when you rejected their, with your vote, they unleashed a ban to use their building to rehearse past midnight. Their volume had to be at least 150 decibels due to the metal of the building vibrating, that I could hear at my house over my TV. Can you imagine my neighbor, whose bedroom is right up against that fence, was trying to sleep? He couldn't even think. Yes, the neighbors were texting and asking who was going to do something about it. Of course, the FCC uses this phrase as they announced they were building a new facility and called us in to tell us how this was going to work and what we were going to do, or what they were going to do to us. So
Finish up, Lisa.
y'all don't like to hear the facts. I'll just finish it with this. This is a stat situation. People are dying on this road because of these bad decisions.
Good evening. I'm Mike Inch. My wife and I live at 1026 John Williams Road. The proposal doesn't conform with adjacent land use. If you look at the map, the Boyd property that is immediately west is 17 acres that's been in the families for quite some time. To the further west is the Breckenridge area conservation district, and the Breckenridge properties have acre and a half, 2 acre lots, so there is plenty of buffer surrounding those homes. To the north is the working farm that John and Janice operate up there, and then along John Williams Road, there are 8 properties, all on larger acreages, again, providing a buffer. County zoning does call for larger lots, and that is not what's in this particular proposal. Tennessee Code Annotated does have some discussion regarding non-contiguous annexation. It suggests that it be restricted to commercial and industrial purposes. That avoids patchwork residential development as it crops up. This, in fact, would be an island when you consider the surrounding terrain, the residential development there surrounded by more open space. Also, the Tennessee Code does talk about consent. And what it calls for is consent of all adjacent landowners. And I believe you have the petition in front of you, signed by 50 folks that live along Clovercroft and around this property that is not favorable to the development. Lastly, comment on protected waters. There's 3 protected waters on this particular tract, 2 of the ponds, of course, and then about 400 feet of Boyd Branch that extends up the valley there. TDEC would require permit to alter the stream bed or whatever, and that's likely to be granted, but it has to take into consideration what mitigation efforts would take place. There is a buffer. If you look at the utility proposal in the concept plan, it runs straight up the creek, crosses the creek and runs right up the riparian zone.
Finish up, please.
Thanks, sir.
Good evening. Janice Williams, 1041 John Williams Road and 1050 John Williams Road. I'm sure y'all know we do live on a century farm. It's almost 200 years old. We'd like to keep it that way. The buffer that Mike spoke of is extremely important to us, just because it keeps us in what we would consider a rural area. We are being built up around, we do know that. But at the same time, what's going to happen if you annex it? The result is going to be the loss of our privacy, the loss of our lifestyle, the rural lifestyle, and what we can do. Mostly, it's going to be the privacy and the safety and the security. We all look out for one another, in particular on our road. The homes absolutely don't have a bit to do with the way that we live. It's going to be completely different. It also will infringe on the property that the Waddies live on in a historic cemetery that could even possibly be destroyed. The road is going to butt right up next to their property. We are asking not to approve it strictly because of the negative impact that it would have on us. Thank you.
Good evening. William Burke. I'm at 4070 and 4074 Clovercroft. So I do live on Clovercroft Road. The traffic is excessive, especially during rush hour in the morning and the evening. I think we have fantastic first responders. We have fantastic services in Franklin. I've seen many flashing lights in the evenings, cars going off the road, you know, some drunk, some not. The road is dangerous from excessive speeding. It's getting real bad. There is no enforcement on the road. I've never seen a traffic stop in 4 years of living on it. And with more houses going on it, it's only going to get worse. Now, you know, I understand the mayor can't stop people from traveling through the road. You know, we can't stop people from out of town coming through that road. However, the more buildup we get on the road, the worse it's going to get, the more turning we're going to get. You know, the answer is not adding lanes. People from, you know, out of town, LA and wherever, the answer is not adding lanes. You know, adding lanes does not solve that problem. Enforcement solves that problem. So, you know, development comes, you know, it's inevitable. Franklin is developing, you know, there's some really great development in Franklin. However, if we do look at the map, there are green spaces, it's beautiful, this whole part of Franklin. The reason we moved here from Brentwood was getting too busy, too many people, too much stuff going on. This whole area is beautiful. There's a lot of things which we love about the area. We love the general curves, the semi-rural area. And if we're starting to put all these very, very close houses together in this area, you know, it's going to change the character, change what life is in this area. It's going to go from what the Franklin we love and what gets people here to a different part of Franklin. Now, you know, growth is going to happen. It's part of life. It's what keeps businesses coming. It's what keeps tax revenue coming in, which is what we need for these great services and first responders and, you know, great roads. But let's just be really careful about what we're doing. Let's be really careful about what we're allowing. So, you know, we don't ruin a beautiful green piece of property. So, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bill Collins, and I live at 1025 John Williams Road. My property butts up against this property there that they're trying to expand. I have been there for 41 years this January. The reason I purchased this 5-acre tract is because at that time you had to have at least 5 acres per house. So I was really interested in wanted a private and a peaceful property. I had 30 acres on one side of my farm, or 5 acres, and I had other tracts, 5 acres and 7-acre tracts on the other side. So it's been, over the last probably 30 plus years, it's been peaceful. We did have a church built next to us, which invaded some of our privacy. But as far as these 10 houses being built on this property, I don't think it's fair to me or anybody else on John Williams Road that spent the money for their 5 plus acres in a house, for somebody to come in there and cheat the system and build those houses on there. It's something that a builder will come in and build, and then he'll be gone, and we'll be left with the consequences. So I ask you, as you decide this decision, that you would take my thoughts in consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else want to speak to this body on this issue? If not, I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'll entertain a motion concerning Resolution 2024-82, which is initiating the annexation process and draft plan of services. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion to move ahead with the initial plan of services with comment. I'd like to have a comment after that for my motion.
So if I'm interpreting you or saying initiating the annexation process and draft plan of services.
Yes, for plan of services.
Seconded by Alderman Baggett.
All right.
Okay, go ahead, please.
My motion tonight is not necessarily that I'm supporting any development there. I don't know. But there is a reason we do a plan of services board. There's a reason we do that. We didn't do that last time for this property. And we really don't know in the future what this property really will hold. Now, it was proposed before for 40 homes, and we voted that down. I did vote for a plan of services last time for 40 homes, but I didn't vote for 40 homes. I voted for a plan of services because I wanted to see what we're talking about here. We have no idea. This time, John has come back and he's proposing 10 homes. We don't know if that's going to be 10 homes. It may be 4 homes, it may be 6 homes, it may be 8 homes, it may be 10 homes. I doubt he'll get any more than 10 homes on that property, but if I had a wild guess, I'd say it's probably going to be about 8. The property at the church, they came in and asked to be built in the county. We allowed them to do that with availability of sewer, and we gave them sewer at the request that they would be annexed in when we requested them to be annexed in. So all we need to do is say, we want you to come in, and they will come into the city. So that property and this property, if it ever does get developed, would be contiguous in the area. But there's a few things. Mrs. Kramer, who could not be here, wrote me a lengthy letter, and I went through this tooth and nail, just really went over it. We've had some good conversations, and I really appreciate her communicating with me. She brought up some excellent points, and but there's a lot of speculation and a lot of opinions in the letter that she sent me. I just wanted to share a few things because I think it's important, not only for this vote tonight on this particular item, but for future items. Sometimes we just absolutely vote down a plan of services because it's just too large. It's not, the development proposed is something we know we all don't want there or something. But sometimes I think more often than not, it's really good to have a plan of services so we know what this property is going to hold in the future. So I wanted to speak to a few of these points, and I'll be very brief if I can. There's been no formal submittal of a plan for the site, just a speculation that, hey, throughout 10 homes, don't know. The other thing is, well, the Boyd property may be historic significant, has historic significance on it. Staff would need further research regarding the findings because it's not listed on the National Historic Register or within the city's historic preservation overlay. Just wanted to point that out because that was mentioned. The other thing, the property in question would be surrounded immediately by county land if annexed. However, it's within the area of land surrounded on 3 sides by the city and would contribute towards closing the bubble of the county land surrounding the city properties, according to staff. TDEC would make the jurisdictional decision on the waters of the site, but TDEC decision would be required prior to the development, and proper regulations and buffers would have to be enforced. A few other points real quick. Clovercroft, let's see, there is, I also asked staff about the slopes and the 14% or greater along the stream channel is that area. Clovercroft Road is on the mayor for thoroughfare plan, so traffic impacts and access points would be considered at the time of development and improvements would have to be made if this ever went to fruition. The closest map of the floodway prior to the upcoming adoption of FEMA maps is at the intersection of Clovercroft Road and Murfreesboro Road, approximately a quarter of a mile away. Envision Franklin places, and this is bothersome to me, Envision Franklin places this land in the mixed residential development concept. I don't think we want to see mixed residential over there. And when this design concept, at least I don't, when this design concept, and people want to protect their land and their larger lots over there, I don't think mixed residential is a good idea at all. Anyway, when this design concept references Seward Hall, it's specifically referencing the historic house within McKay's Mill, Seward Hall, not the general area of Seward Hall. But annexation agreements related to the city sewer are utilized when properties are requested sewer without immediate annexation. The language in these documents consider a different context with Mrs. Kramer had shared with me. The last thing I'll say is Envision Franklin will be considered, of course, in this area with any rezoning request and will be analyzed if a development plan is ever submitted for this land. And finally, the property is within the urban growth boundary and is non-contiguous to the existing city limits. TCA permits non-contiguous access or annexation in coordination with the county through any requested interlocal agreement. The city has annexed non-contiguous property in the past and has communicated with the county on these plans of services always in our UGB. And where there is and it's very near to annexed areas already. I just wanted to point a few of those things out that were in her letter. Again, my motion is not for development at all. I don't know. I may be totally, not in agreement with this, but I think this land has come before us 3 times now, but we never find out anything about the stream on it, what it could hold, and I know there's 2 properties. I just want to explain that. That's why I voted for the plan of services. I'm not voting for development tonight. I'm not voting for annexation. I'm voting for a plan of services. I just want to explain my vote. Thank you.
Anybody else want to speak? Alderman Peterson.
I certainly want to talk about the area surrounding this. If you drive out there, you see that virtually everything is large acre that has buildings on it. And I do not think this is appropriate. And also, even though we have over years annexed non-contiguous property, it hasn't necessarily been a good idea. But here, if you look at what is out there and in the area, it seems that the ideas about this, and they have shown a development plan with this that certainly looks like maybe, an acre, maybe 2 acres maximum for the lots, and all the other lots around there are definitely, that have people living on them are definitely much larger than that. So I'm not in favor of it.
Alderman Barnhill.
I think Alderman Peterson has covered very adequately what we've looked at and what we've looked at in the past on this. I won't support the resolution because I've been out there and I've been over the property and I've looked at the road. We've discussed the road every time something comes up. We talk about the amount of traffic that's on the road. I don't think this is a good fit for what surrounds the property, and I won't support the resolution based upon that. I'm of the opinion that if I'm not going to support it at the next reading, there's not much reason to get it to the annexation process and draft plan of services. So I'll just put when we get ready to vote, I'll put my no vote in on this resolution now.
Alderman Brown.
Yes to both. I feel like a broken record on Clovercroft Road.
Yep.
I just, from Poplar Farms on down, I just haven't been able to support anything on this road. And this property, every time it's come up, I haven't found anything that I support. And I'm with you. Why would I start an annexation on a property that I do see enough of a plan in front of me that if I'm not going to vote on a development plan, why am I going to annex it? So I'm in agreement. I still don't see any reason why I would take this into the property. And if they want to do something put 7 houses in the county, call it a day.
Alderman Caesar.
I certainly can appreciate the differing opinions here in the sides here, and I voted against it when it was 40-plus units because
Yeah.
traffic was a problem. Clovercroft Road is a problem. I think all of us agree that Clovercroft Road has an opportunity to be improved. It's not a city road, and until the city starts to acquire properties around that road, it's probably not going to be a primary focus for us in the city to spend our taxpayer dollars to make that road better. I also don't envision this property holding more than 4 or 5 houses, and at 4 or 5 houses, it probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I also received an email correspondence from Ms. Kramer and appreciate the time that she put in to share, and those who have come and spoken tonight. I don't see this moving forward as it's discussed, and I'd hate to use our taxpayer dollars to build and to invest in the time that it would take to do a services review if we don't think that the plan that's roughly attached to it is going to go forward.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question. I don't disagree with what any of you have said, because I am not in favor of putting more problems on Clovercroft. Really am not. And someone would say, well, why would you support plaintiff services? It's really difficult. I made the motion, so I'm going to vote for it. I have to vote for it. But we have to ask ourselves, this came up before with Chardonnay, which is a subdivision right across from Clovercroft Elementary School. We had an opportunity to annex that in. And I said, we could annex that in, but we don't have to have it developed. You just be in the city at the time. And then we can wait. And when McEwen Drive is completed, then we can talk about annexing it in across the street from a school that was then later built. And everyone says, no, we don't want it developed. We don't want to put any more pressure on Clovercroft and Wilson Pike and McEwen. And I said, I understand that, but mark my word, if it doesn't get annexed in and we can just sit on it for a while and say, we'll wait till the road is finished, it will get developed. And immediately they went to the county and put, 60 homes in there? And it was immediately developed. So I'm not here to argue for this development. Believe me, I'm not here to argue for the development. I'm just thinking back to Chardonnay and everything. So we have to be okay with 4 or 5 or 6 homes being there anyway. It's probably going to get developed in the county. And it probably will be. And we keep turning it down for a plan of services, so we know, I have no idea what can go there. And honestly, I voted down Poplar Farms. 4 of my colleagues, 5 of my colleagues voted for it. That's probably one of the worst votes we've ever taken on this board. Drive over there and look at it. I'm not scared about 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 homes in this area. What I am a little concerned about is that when it comes before us, we don't even have an opportunity to look at it, to study it. And I understand, Clyde, when you said, hey, why would I vote for it now when I know I'm not going to vote for it then? Well, I don't know. Maybe they'll come back and say there's 3 houses. Because we have a stream through that property. There's a lot of things going on. So I just want to further explain it because I'm adamant about Clovercroft Drive. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a proponent of putting more problems on Clovercroft. And this is at the south end of Clovercroft as well. So anyway, just wanted to share those things. Thanks.
Alderman Peterson.
Just to say one more thing. Now, doesn't the county require 5 units to,
In
5
some
acres
areas,
to a unit?
it'll be one per
One
acre.
per 5 acres? Well, it's only like
Not-
17 acres,
Not
so.
in that outlying areas. It'll be 1 per acre there for the county, according to the commissioners.
In the UGB?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. One per one. Yes.
Wait,
If the septic works.
Yeah. Yeah, if the septic works, maybe you may get 3 or 4 homes on a septic, who knows? I don't know. We don't know. We know nothing about it, because we haven't had anything.
Ma'am, just to But we don't really get to entertain that here. I mean, it's true, and they're asking us to deny this, and then the reality is that they could go to the county and maybe get 17 homes. That's a choice the neighbors have made, and to be against this in the city with 10, we can't, we don't have a crystal ball, and so, that's all I'll say for now.
I'm assuming that the people who have spoken live in the county.
Yeah.
Ready to vote?
They do. They do.
Alderman Barnhill.
No.
Alderman Blanton.
No.
Alderman Caesar.
No.
Alderman Peterson.
No.
Alderman Berger.
I have to vote yes, because I
Yes.
made the motion, yes.
Alderman Brown.
No.
Vice Mayor Potts.
No.
Alderman Baggett.
No.
Thank you. I'm good with that.
Motion fails
So, Mayor,
7-1.
just a point of order, because it was a resolution, you didn't actually approve or disapprove, you just didn't approve anything. So now we need a motion to deny, so that you've affirmatively done something.
Mayor, I move to deny.
Yep, second. I'll second.
Seconded by Alderman Berger. Any discussion? Motion to deny. Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously to deny. Item 10, consideration of ordinance 2023-41 is amended, an ordinance to amend Chapter 4 of Title 16 of the Franklin Municipal Code concerning road impact fees. This is the third and final reading. On your place, you have a sheet that Mr. Girth has put there. I think Mr. Girth was going to maybe go over this, or Mr. Stuckey was going to
Let me just
go
give a
over.
little context first.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Would you like to-
Okay, we need to clarify a couple things in terms of the motion from last time and exactly how you want to implement the phase-in. And then we did work to specifically define what we mean by entitlement, so that is clear. So those are the things that this helps us walk through. And Vernon will walk through that with you. The first is to look at the phase-in and how you want to do that, because it was sort of addressed a couple different ways, and there was also a specific proposal that the NIOP group had put out there. So we want to make sure we understand what your phase-in desire is, and then Vernon will walk through the definition here
But
as
do
well.
we not go back to the vote? Vote
Your vote was
taken?
not clear, and it added up to 85% as it was stated before you voted.
the
So it
5
doesn't
and
have,
10 is
did not
off?
have a full implementation.
So the sixth, just to be clear, so the
it's 5
sixth
and
year
10.
would be 100%. The difference
Sixth
between the
year.
fifth and the sixth
Yeah.
year would get to the 100%, which I thought was a 5-year phase-in, with the 6th year be the 6th full year.
But yeah.
Clarity is needed.
Right, and when we had
Okay.
talked about 5-year phase-ins, throughout that discussion, we had used 5
So you need-
stages of implementation. And there was a specific proposal that NIOP gave you that sounded a lot like this. So it's not clear.
Correct.
What you may have intended to vote
So
for.
what you're saying is the 5-year has to be clarified,
We want to clarify whether it's a 5
or 6.
or 6.
It's,
And what your comfort level is there. So Vernon, you want to talk through
Sure.
the sheet that you all have at your place that may help guide that discussion?
I do, and I'll start on the bottom of the sheet, because the ordinance is drafted as amended based on what this conversation was, that the full implementation is over 6 years. And that's what's in the ordinance in section 3, and that's for 10% the first year of implementation, 15%, 15%, 15%, 30%, and 15%. So that's in your ordinance now. If you elect to go to a 5-year implementation, that's where this motion and the language I provided on the bottom of the page would provide for year 1, 10%, year 2, 15%, year 3, 15%, year 4, 30%, and year 5, 30%. So that's, you have essentially the 6-year option in the ordinance is drafted, no change needed. If you want to revert to the 5-year, an amendment would be needed, and the motion is provided. That's number 1. Number 2, we didn't have the opportunity to put the project approval date into the ordinance, and our counterparts in the development professionals and staff recommend this definition that references our zoning ordinance, but essentially is very liberal in terms of once a plan is approved and it remains active, that amendments can happen to it, even if it increases density, and they wouldn't lose their grandfathering status, okay? So unless otherwise approved by the board, and that language is there. So to provide this definition in section 2 as stated, a motion would be needed to insert that in the ordinance. If you have any questions, I'll try to re-clarify.
In section 2?
As you see it.
Section 2.
In the
number 4.
ordinance.
Will you state that
Oh, yeah,
one
let
more
me see.
time,
Just
what
kind
it's
of-
doing? It's
Oh, yeah.
with regarding density. You said that if it is
Yeah, I have that.
increasing density, it would lose its, will you just restate what you just
What
said,
I'm
please?
saying is that this is a very liberal definition, that once a project has received, for projects approved prior to
Okay.
July 1, 2025,
Okay.
even if those projects were to get amended to increase density, they wouldn't lose their grandfathering status. Okay? They would stay, they could increase the density, and even the density stays within that 10-year grandfathering
Okay.
schedule.
All right.
Is that-
The new density would be grandfathered in as well.
Yep.
Yes.
Are
Unless
there any other-
otherwise approved by the board.
Are there any other triggers we should be worried about that we're not thinking
That's
about
right.
besides density?
No.
Question.
Just making sure.
We
I need to hear you say that.
intentionally tried to keep it very simple, that, it allows for projects to meet the demands of the economy, the reality.
Yeah.
And, some developments don't build out their density. Others may come in and want to modify the uses and increase a little bit. It's rare that it adds a lot. And if it does, you have the option to have the additional density applied to the new fees if you want. But that's speculation. This way, it makes it clear when a project was approved prior to July 1, 2025. As long as that plan remains active, even if they come in for amendment, that original date maintains their
Is it-
grandfathering status for that 10-year period.
And Vernon, if I understand this right, you're using density as an example, but the development itself, the development plan itself is grandfathered as long as it remains active.
Yeah.
We're using density because that's the most common thing you might think of, but other elements would apply as well. So that approval carries through and that grandfathering carries through.
But we would still have the ability to approve or disapprove.
Yeah, if they come back with an amended development plan, that still goes through the normal process.
Okay.
For the purpose of grandfathering, you maintain that grandfathering.
Yes, if it hits the triggers that are in the zoning ordinance, that's why it references the zoning ordinance. Increasing density, yes, a development plan definitely comes back to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
For
Something
instance,
less, it might just be.
for instance, we had a development in McEwen or on the other side of the interstate that wanted to be office and changed to apartments. That would not continue to keep their grandfathering if they changed the total use.
The whole use.
If,
Do you remember when that happened? It's an example.
oh, you're talking about Franklin Park.
Yes, sir.
All right.
That's just an example where something was already approved as office, and then they came back and wanted to change it to
They would
residential.
still maintain their grandfather
Okay.
status because that was an approved development plan
Okay.
that was remained active because it was prior to 2015, which when investing went into play. And we purposely didn't want to complicate the vesting legislation that's governed by state law into this. That's why the original approval date is what determines grandfather,
Yeah.
whether or not amendments are made to it.
Vernon, I have one question. So I understand that they would still fall under the grandfathering, But they would be reassessed the fee pursuant to the new use and the greater density?
Yes. At the time the building permit is issued, that's when those fees get assessed. And with the new ordinance, just to remind everybody, a developer will have the option, or a building permit applicant, to pay the fees at the time they obtain the permit, and they would receive a 10% discount. Or they can pay the fee, they can pay those fees prior to requesting final inspections for that building.
So it's still grandfathered, but it still tracks to the use, which is the way the impact fee has always been structured.
Oh, does there need to, I would like for it to be clear too in the ordinance so that future boards are, I think it is clear. But the intent that I would have is that if you've.
Yeah, I'd like to, let me interrupt you because I'd like to get a motion, but I want to know whether you want to hear from two speakers.
Yes, thanks, Mayor.
Before you consider making a motion. So Glenn McGee and Rachel Blackhurst, please come to the podium. You have 2 minutes each. And you're faster than Mr. McGee, so we recognize you, Rachel.
I raced up here. I really wanted tonight just to jump up and say thank you so much to city staff. They have done so much hard work on this issue. I know it's been months now of calculations and recalculations, and we really appreciate their hard work. Also, we are really relieved to see the language around really putting those boundaries around grandfathering, as well as either the 5-year or the 6-year phase-in. I do, though, just quickly want to reemphasize in closing, the end of 5 years or 6 years, this is still going to be about a 300% increase that the development community will have to absorb. So just something to keep thinking about as more fees come down the pike, but also we are continuing to work with the state to try and enable additional tools that would help development community absorb these costs, but also give you all hopefully more infrastructure funding tools. Thank you.
Glenn McGee, thank you, Mayor and Alderman, and I echo what Rachel said. I do not take for granted how incredible a group of people we have here at the City of Franklin, and I've been fortunate to be able to call people friends, and I know after the last workshop, many of you called me from the alderman as well as staff, and we had some very, very meaningful conversations. I do want to say a couple things. I think when we first started this process, it was for myself, our partnership, and our piece of property, as well as many other commercial developers. We were concerned about preserving where we had entered those, and we worked on the grandfathering. And that was really my message to many of you, was talking about grandfathering. And I guess I could say I was working toward what was best for me. Alderman Brown, then Vice Mayor Brown, brought up something in a workshop a month or so ago that said, why is nobody talking about what this fee will become?
Yep.
And so I embarked on a journey to really understand what that was. And it's quite frightening as to where we're going with fees in our community. I understand that our staff and our team here has to solve the issue of roads and those kinds of things, but it's not a simple math problem when we say we have $800 million worth of expense, let's just raise fees to pay for them. And I know that's not what we're doing, because I heard you tonight talk about going after grants of $30 million. So I don't take that for granted. And so I'm not trying to oversimplify that, but what I'm trying to tell you is we've talked about a 10,054 square foot Perry Steakhouse, okay? Today, that road impact fee is $200,000. If it goes full effect, if somebody wants to bring a 10,000 square foot restaurant in here, not on projects that grandfathered, it's ultimately going to be $600,000. Well, we haven't seen an increase in rents over the 5 years necessarily in the retail world. Office rents were at about 30 in 2019 on average. They're about the same today. And home prices have almost doubled in that same period of time. So what I'm trying to say is we can't just charge more rent because we have more cost. And all I'm doing is trying to caution us on that.
Mr. McGee.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a motion? I think I was recognizing Alderman Baggett. Is that correct? Were you wanting to make a motion?
Well, I was making a comment when I was interrupted, but I don't think I will have a motion to make on this, no. Someone else might?
Mr. Mayor, I do have a point of order.
Okay.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a question to Shauna. Shauna, just for clarification, as we're sitting here post-discussion, you had stated, or maybe it was Eric that had stated, that the previous vote, which was our second vote, was not conducted correctly or spoken to correctly, submitted correctly. My point is we voted for a second reading, and there was a vote that was cast. So my question is the consideration of what we have before us, is this truly the third reading, or is this now the second?
This is the third and final. You can amend it multiple times until the very end.
That's what I just wanted to get clarification, so everybody's on the same page.
You have before you ordinance 2023-41. Is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I have a point of information, if I could, from staff.
I think you asked for a motion.
Is the motion you're looking for to include this language as well, or is this a motion to approve or motion to disapprove?
We would like you within your motion to clarify the phase-in and incorporate the definition of the entitled projects. That entitlement language was not in there. Second reading, we knew it needed to be clarified. That has happened. We've drafted that for you to include it. And then we just are asking to clarify, is it really a 6-year or a 5-year phase-in, and how you want to do that.
And I think some of the confusion came when I repeated what I thought was Alderman Baggett's motion, and that's what we voted on.
I will make a motion if you'd like for me to. I'll move to approve the ordinance as written with an amendment to move that Section 2 of Ordinance 2023-41 as amended, Title 16, Chapter 4, Section 16, 412-4 be amended in its entirety to read as follows on the exhibit submitted. And I will leave the implementation phase-in as written in the ordinance.
Second.
Once again.
And to clarify, you're referring to the sheet that Mr. Gerth placed at your?
The first portion only. The second portion, as I stated in my
Yes.
motion last meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
And just
Any
have a
dis-
question. Does this mean it would be 6 years phase in?
Yeah.
It's all in how you look at it.
Yes.
But
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Will be full, the 6th year will be a full fee. So it will be parsed up over the 5 years, and the 6th year will be a full year. As written, it's phased in, debatable. It will be split up over 4 years, and the 5th year will be the first full year. This is over, and the reason, well, there's a motion in a second, so I guess we're discussing. The reason I'm doing that is because I do think that the impact of these fees is going to be felt in the community, in the building community significantly, and phasing it out over a longer period of time, I think, is prudent. Also, the sales tax and other revenue generated from those projects, giving them another year to phase this in, new projects, I think it is better for us as the community. I think the revenue will come, but I don't want to burden that 3rd and 4th year. Giving them another year would be good.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor.
Alderman Brown.
Yeah, and I just, what I said then is what I mean now, and I will tell you the reason that the phase-in to me, or the grandfathering is important to me, is I don't think we're done here, and I feel like we got to do something, but I don't think we can be done figuring out what else we need to do. And I think there are multiple steps. I think there's multiple tools. And I would tell Rachel what I've told her before. And to the extent that little Alderman Brown from Franklin, Tennessee can be at your disposal in all those discussions that you're trying to have and what you're trying to move forward, I want to be a part of that. And I continue to have conversations with folks in this community about what other tools we can implement. You know, we have a very small tax base. It doesn't help us much on TIFs. It doesn't help us much on anything else. And until we have a body that is willing to move that needle, it rests on our development community, you know? And so it has to come from somewhere. And, you know, and so we got to start, but I'm telling you, I'm not done. So as long as I'm sitting in this seat, we're going to keep looking for other ways to do this. And I hope that over the next couple of years, we can find some other ways, and maybe we don't have to hit those next few years.
Alderman Berger.
Well, this is a lot better for now, but it's better. But overall, increasing these impact fees is not going to be sustainable. And just hearing just that little one, look, those prices on something like Perry's is just blows me away. And I know we have to raise fees. I know we have to do that, but I just can't vote for this yet because we were talking about revenue's going to come in, but I'm not so sure it's going to come in, Patrick. I really don't. Because we're not going to see a lot of these things happen. We have to do something, Matt, you said, and I agree, but I feel like we're still, we're trying to squeeze through a door when we really don't want to squeeze through that door quite yet. And we want to open it wider and go through the door, but yet we're choosing to squeeze through it because we feel pressured to do this. And I just can't vote for something I feel so pressured to do because we need to raise impact fees. I just don't think it's the right thing to do yet. And I've asked many times that we look around and try to figure out other ways to do this. We've never once had anybody bring us anything about other communities, other ideas, how we can do this. And I want to see that. That's not going to happen because it's not going to happen now because we're in this crunch. And this thing's not going to get implemented to July 1st, 2025. I don't know what good it's going to do for me, you know, if we deferred it and waited a month or two or three. I don't know. Because I don't think I'm ever going to get any information outside what we do now. We don't have any ideas. We don't have any other ways to implement the fees and development and pay for everything. I get it. I mean, we have to pay for infrastructure. And I'm not sitting here opposed to raising fees. We know fees go up all the time. Just look at our work session, all the fees that we're going to be raising. But in the end, I don't think for this town it's going to be sustainable. I really don't. And the sales tax and things we've been seeing, I think, are going to take a dive. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I get proven wrong, but just wait and see. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't have any magic wand with a great idea at this point. Don't. But I just still don't feel comfortable enough to vote yes on this.
Got Alderman Brown, then I'll recognize Alderman
Just
Blanton.
one quick comment is that we have seen programs come in front of us from transfer development rights, and there was all kinds of reasons why it was complicated and nobody really wanted to look at them. We had TIFs presented to us, but we have a really low tax base, and so it's kind of hard to make those kind of things work. And so, I mean, we did look at what other communities do. We did look at different programs, but it requires, and we've been at this for a couple of years, but it requires all of us to say that we're willing to look at those and actually move them down the line. And we didn't. And so I don't blame staff for saying this is something that we've been using, this is something that we've got.
Yeah, sure.
And so that unless enough of
Sure.
us say, I mean, I've been, I mean, I think Errol could tell you, I've been every one of my one-on-ones with him, I'm saying, what else can we do? What else can we do? And so unless more people say to staff, what else can we do in other programs? Rachel, every time I talk to Rachel, I'm like, what else can I do to help you get more programs, more tools in the toolbox? But we got to have everybody wanting to do that. Otherwise, this is what we got. We got road impact fees because that's the way we do it. And so
We're stuck.
unless, we're stuck unless everybody else wants to look at other programs. This is what we got.
I've asked for that. I
Alderman
have
Black.
never seen a chart.
Yes, sir. Matt, I'll stand beside you on that because I can't vote for this. I think it's broken. I think we did a really great effort to try to make it fair, but a 300% increase in how many 5 years you give it is asinine. It is, again, like I said before, it's shame on us that we let it get this far out of control. And it's not comprehensive enough to look at all the other revenues that this is going to bring in, whether the economic impact from the sales tax, from we're fixing to have a reassessment. We just sat there and talked about, well, let's wait on Parkland because let's wait till the reassessment comes in. Why are we not doing that here? You know, we're looking at raising sewer and water. This one is, to me, the nucleus of what drives a developer to say yes or no, because it's the biggest ticket item. And we're fortunate that we have some projects in the queue. But you know that old adage, and I'm not going to be political, it's like, well, let's wait until after the election before we do X or before we do this, because we need to know how things are going to shift out. I think we need to do that and wait until the spring when we know what the reassessment's going to bring and what our fiscal security looks like as far as what we're going to do with other things. I just can't support it. I do appreciate all the effort that's gone into it, from the grandfathering to the indexing to the phase-in, but I think it's got holes all in it, so I won't be supporting it.
Alderman Caesar, and then I'll go to Alderman Barnhill.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, when this first started, I've spoken with a lot of the developers and a lot of the folks who represent developers, and even a handful of real estate agents have started reaching out in opposition to this today, and I've read their emails and appreciate people reaching out and communicating with me. When, a few months ago, I was comfortable with 4 and 8. 4-year phase-in and 8-year grandfathering. And I felt like that was a stretch, but I was comfortable because we needed to do something. And what sits before us is a 6 and 10, which is better than 4 and 8, which is even longer than the national organization had requested. And I'm curious, the people that should be, now, to my board members' credit, it's a huge increase. It's a huge increase over time. But let's go back to the beginning of the meeting, and there were about 20 young people that came in and sang the Star Spangled Banner to kick off this meeting. The last time these fees were increased, those folks, most of them weren't born.
Oh, yeah.
And if we kick this to 6 and 10, those young people will be out of high school by the time this goes fully into effect. And by the time the grandfathering winds down, they will be graduated college. That's a long time to defer fees. Now, is this perfect? I don't think it is. Do we need to do something? I do think we do. Will pushing it another 6 months, another 12 months? I've been on this board for just about a year, and we've talked about this for quite a while, and we've extended it at least another year. I don't feel like I'm doing my constituents a good service when the people who are going to be directly affected, their pocketbooks, are here saying, you know what, we think this is fair, we appreciate the collaboration. I don't think I'm doing my constituents a good service when we say we're going to allow development and there's going to be infrastructure needs and we don't have ways to raise the fees to pay for those things. I think we've given plenty of runway to the developers to say, hey, you can still operate a business here and we'll support you in operating your businesses. We don't want to crush the projects that you're in the middle of. We've given you a grandfather option. I don't know that I can sit here and be comfortable saying those kids, when they graduate high school, are still going to have to be figuring out this problem that is in front of us today, and it's been in front of us for almost a decade.
Alderman Barnhill.
You know, we sat for 3 hours just prior to this meeting right here, and we discussed many different projects, and none of them were funded. They were all short money. And I'm still wondering, when we went back, and let me say the best case scenario was 3-year phase in. Okay? Now, for some of us, that's the worst case scenario. But let's just say the best case scenario. And we take the 5-year phase in and the 10-year grandfathering. What's the difference in the estimated revenue being generated? Would you like, do you remember? Do you have it in front of
We'd
you?
have to go back and look at that. It's in your packet.
It's in your
but,
packet.
Yeah.
It's also in the documentation that we looked at 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. The TIF grants, the TIF districts, and the TDRs, and the property assessment really don't have anything to do with the road impact fees.
Pretty much.
They don't fund the same thing. So if you're looking for relief on a road someplace and you need the money to do it, you're not gonna go to the TIF, you're not gonna go to the TDR, and you could go to the road, you could go to the property tax increase if you were doing debt service or paying off the debt. Okay? So, I don't understand that. I don't understand why we would sit here for 3 hours and discuss multitude of things that needed funding, and then we leave to the citizens of Franklin, we leave $61 million on the table. Now, somebody somewhere has to pay that. Now, I don't know, if the development community doesn't want to pay it, the real estate community doesn't want to pay it. And we're saying that we're going to regenerate that in sales tax, and we're going to do this, we're going to do that. That's Bill's crystal ball there. That
You're not gonna generate it.
and I don't know that that's accurate to be able to say that. Now, I'm gonna vote against this, but I'm only voting against it, not that I don't think it needs to be approved, but I think it needs to be scaled down to where there's no grandfathering, and you have a certain number of years phased in on this right here. And that's my take on this. It's not that I think that, if some of us are saying, we don't want this road impact fee now. We don't want any of it. And I think we need it. I think we've got projects here on this list that we looked at that need to be funded. And until we find something different, there may not be anything different unless the state comes in and chips in $50 million. But we're looking at matching what the state may do, and we may be doing, leveraging our money. If we don't have the money to leverage, we ain't gonna do too much leveraging with the state on a project. If we need the second bridge out on the McAtcher Parkway, we need that. But we're not gonna leverage it if we don't have something in place that shows where we're generating the funding coming in to be able to match. So I will vote against it, but not for the same reason that we have some of the other aldermen voting against it.
Mr. McAfee.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate everybody's comments. As I listened, and actually before I start, Michael, I think you wanted to answer part of a question. That's why you approached the podium.
Yeah.
I want to give you that time, then I'll make my comment.
You've assumed this duty pretty quickly, haven't you?
I'm deferring part of my 2 minutes.
You're supposed to ask Mayor.
Experience from the Budget and Finance Committee for the Vice Mayor. Michael Walters Young, Chief Budget and Performance Officer. In answer to Alderman Barnhill's question, we costed out 10 different scenarios with a high-end potential of $232 million over the 10 years and a low end of $170 million. So his 61 million, call it 62, is the appropriate differential between the two top end and high end and low end scenarios. Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor. Go ahead, Alderman Potts.
Thank you,
Vice
sir.
Mayor Potts, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, as I sit here, one of the concerns that I have, we spent so many months doing this, and we partnered with the development community, and we sat, Rachel and others, to say, what's the best possible approach to have the least impact? And we met that match. We sat at the table with all of these individuals. I think Alderman Barnhill has summarized it great. There's a huge list of projects that need to be funded right now. But I also think what Alderman Caesar said is, and the analogy was great regarding the kids. We kick this down the road and it fails tonight. I'm going to challenge all of us that we've got to come back to the table between now and July 1st and come up with something different. If 300% increase, as quoting Alderman Blanton, if that's too much, even though we had all agreed to it, that was what was presented. I say agreed to it, it's what NAOP had brought to us over 5 years and the grandfathering over 10. So if this is not going to pass tonight, and I don't know if it is or not, but if it doesn't, we've got to come back to the table. It's our responsibility. We were elected to make difficult decisions. This is a very difficult decision. It is hitting the pockets of many individuals in all of the individuals in the development community. So we've got to get this done. And I feel like if we don't do it tonight, we've got to get it done in Q1 so that they know what's coming down the pipeline as they start in July.
Mayor, go ahead.
Alderman Peterson.
I do think that the phasing in is definitely better. And I certainly feel like the grandfathering is better than what was originally started off with. There are still some concerns that I have, but I think that that we need to do something. So I'm going to be in favor.
So
Baggett.
this is really amazing. I think we've really come a long way in a lot of ways, and we've lost a lot of ground in other ways. Make no mistake, doing nothing leads to a property tax increase next year. And there's some people that want that. Doing nothing leads to a citizen property tax next year because the money isn't there to do what we need to do. We have had a long, successful history. That's why when you look at our property tax graph over the last 30 years, as we see it every year in our budget, it's going down. Why? Because we've kept up. Though we haven't kept up well the last number of years. We've kept up. I don't know how, at the outset of this, I ever would have thought that we would have had something that you have the development community standing up, and they don't like it, but they didn't like the 50% inflation that we got over the last 4 years either. Who did? We owe it too on our roads. And on our current fees, the math doesn't work. And if it doesn't come from the development fee that the developers pay, guess where it comes from? Citizens. So doing nothing literally, to me, is saying, I want the citizens to pay for this and not the development community and their proportionate share on a very fair, as Alderman Caesar has said, very fair timeline that they have said. By the way, they even said they were good with the 5-year, and I committed 6. So I guess for the second thing is, number one, I don't want this to go to the citizens in the form of property tax to do the improvements that are driven by the additional development that is going to happen. Number two, will slow growth. It won't stop it because we've spread it out over enough time, I think. Third, maybe the increase in fees is what's going to drive the private community to go look at the TIFs and push at the state level what we're not able to push here. The city of Franklin is never going to come up with a financing model for private development They're going to have to do it on their own volition because of financial incentives. It's the market. Let the market work. And they got fees, and they got a 6-year window. My kid will be in college, close to it, I hope. And 10 years of grandfathering. Also, if they increase the density on their current projects, which I was kind of surprised we did, if they increase the density on their projects, they get to pay the old fee on it. Which I don't know that I'm a fully agreement with, but everyone seems to be on the same page for staff and development community, so let's do it. So they can build more than what they've been approved for and pay the old fees. I don't know what else we can do. We got to do something, and I'm not going to put it on the taxpayer.
Well, this has been a big frustration to me because it's been like extracting all the teeth out of your mouth to get information and how to move this thing forward. And we've been looking at it a long time. I consider this a great deal for the developers personally. We've met their demands. We've met with them. The number one concern of our citizens is traffic, period. And Alderman Baggett is absolutely correct.
Yep.
The other revenue source we have to look at is the property tax. And I'm not willing to go to the property tax to pay for roads that the developers should be paying for. This is a good deal for the developers. It's a good deal for the city of Franklin. The Tennessee General Assembly has to address things that NIOP and the developers think will help them with their
Yep.
projects.
That's right.
But ultimately, a lot of those things that you're talking about, the financial responsibility to cover it falls on us. For example, the TIF that we did with
Sure.
Nissan, the financial responsibility was on us to pay those bills.
But there are ways to do it.
So I hope you're ready to vote, and I hope that you'll vote to support this, something that staff has worked many, many hours on. The developers and NIOP have worked many, many hours. This has been hammered out, and for us to sit here and not be supportive of something that staff has worked on diligently at your request, and that they've worked with NIOP at their request, and they've come up with something that everybody is happy with except a handful of board members. I am really puzzled. So let's vote.
One more thing, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say, I think this is why I appreciate our board and why it's so important to have discussions like this. Because if you sit here and listen to everybody, we learn things. Even though I said I really can't support it, you've made some really good arguments. And even though it's not perfect, and I'm jumping on this end going no, and this end yes, and this end going, we put so much work into it. We've come up with a much better offering. But I'm with you, Matt, too. We have to do a lot of work. We need to move forward. And Patrick, thank you for your argument. I appreciate everybody's input because it's really helped me to make up my mind how I'm going to vote.
Okay, we're voting to approve Alderman Baggett's motion with the 6-year phase-in, as he said. And so Alderman Barnhill.
No.
Point of order. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, but we're also at the same time voting to amend Section 2 Ordinance
Yes.
2341.
Thank you.
Yes, and the clarification that Alderman
Entitlement
Baggett.
definition.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderman Barnhill.
No.
Alderman Blanton.
No.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes 6-2. We'll now move on to the next item, if I can find my agenda.
The whole thing just left me.
And thank you for the great discussion.
That was good.
Yeah, very, very helpful.
Item number 10 is an ordinance, no, I'm sorry. 11. Consideration ordinance 2024-34, an ordinance to amend the Franklin zoning ordinance text as part of 5-year update and amend the zoning maps of the city of Franklin, Tennessee to establish the rezoning property of the new regional commerce district, RC4, adopt federal emergency management floodplain insurance rate maps, updated maps, and the flood fringe overlay, and the establishing a public hearing on November the 26th. I think there needs to be some clarification because there's some interest in adding amendments
Yes.
to this, and so I'd like some clarification before I ask for a motion from the board.
We've been reminded tonight that per state law, any amendments to the zoning ordinance update that's before you, that has already gone to Planning Commission for a recommendation, will require a recommendation from the Planning Commission prior to final approval by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. So if any amendments are made during the 3 readings, it will need to go back to the Planning Commission. And our timeline is very much linked to the approval of the FEMA maps, which need approval by December 20th. And that is part of the zoning update. So that said, we're aware of a few desired amendments to this proposed ordinance, but we would ask you to consider the need for the amendments at this juncture, or if they could wait till the next zoning update. If you do wish to make the amendments at this time, it would be really helpful to have them tonight so that we can work on scheduling a special called Planning Commission meeting that can happen prior to December 9th, so that they can consider those amendments and make a recommendation and get it back to you before 3rd reading. So, sorry to add that wrinkle.
So, when would any amendments be considered, on your best case scenario, could they be considered in the first quarter?
We could bring amendments forward at any point. There is a vesting kind of timeline that becomes a little more complicated because we track developments based on which ordinance they're approved under, which is why we typically do the 1 year. But there's no reason we can't bring one forward in the spring. It will just add additional zoning ordinances that we need to track and consider who's vested under what, because there will be developments that'll, you know, be kind of affected by that change.
So I'm one of those that needed to get in here, and it is a little time sensitive. I don't know that it's probably a first of the year kind of a first quarter kind of a thing. So
Yeah,
it's a small one, but it is one that I think we'll bump into.
I need a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mayor Moore, I move to approve the agenda item as set.
Appropriate motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Baggett.
Okay.
Now.
Sorry. Okay. So I guess if I wait to make this after the first of the year, if this plan comes through in the first quarter, am I missing this opportunity?
So the timing to get a zoning ordinance amendment through, we would have to at least prepare a new ordinance, go through law approval, and then get it on a planning commission agenda. So for that to happen, we probably are looking at planning commission at the earliest in February, I would say. If we started basically that process now, we would go to a joint workshop in January, planning commission February. Then it would start before you, March work session, and really it would be approved in the springtime. So that is the earliest. We can move forward with contacting the chair of planning commission and calling a special meeting if it's necessary. Obviously, that's your decision.
It's such as you know, it's such a small, it's a relatively small thing to ask the planning commission to come in for it. I sure hope I sure hope the timing works out. I really wish it had gotten in sooner.
Point of inquiry, could we just approve the FEMA changes on this and then do all the rest in a single batch? Because the FEMA floodplain changes really are not going to affect many, if any, because they're minor, mostly in detail, and then come back in the first quarter with all these changes in one sweep, and that way, at least most of the major changes are in one?
That is really complicated to do on the floor.
We did
But-
the last one on the floor.
Yeah, I know. There might be a creative way to get what you want without necessarily changing the zoning ordinance until the following year. If we were to draft maybe an ordinance that would make this effective January 1, 2025, but but maybe we could put something in that, I mean, we do have the pending ordinance doctrine, maybe we could play with a little, or there might be a creative way to get what you want.
So
with-
the pending ordinance doctrine, if we started on if we pushed the amendment as soon as we could in the next year, and it got to be pending at the March meeting at the earliest, then we could apply it to any development plan review that's coming in at that stage.
It just has to pass one reading of the final decision-making body, which would mean BOMA.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you have two
So-
meetings still, the 26th and the 10th. The wild card we don't know about is our ability to get 5 planning commissioners together for a meeting between now
Yeah.
and December 9th.
Right.
If we can do that, we're good, and we can do these very, very minor
Yeah,
things
okay.
and then have a more considered process for other things you want to do. It's just, we don't know, because that we haven't had a chance to go see what we can pull together in the next, 4 weeks. So there's a little bit of a roll of the dice if you want to do that. And we can try, and we can revisit this if we're unsuccessful.
Yeah.
We can try to
Try.
figure out in the next week if that can happen, and we can come back to you on the 26th and say, we tried and we can't do it.
Yeah.
And then we can have a better
That's right.
option for you in terms of maybe one of these more creative solutions.
Okay.
But it wouldn't hinder the process of this going.
I would suggest we keep going, and we see if we're able to address the amendments you want to amend, and then come back to see if we're successful in pulling together the meeting.
So we would need to know the amendments
Okay.
in order to take them to the planning
Right.
commission.
Sure.
So I would ask that if you are prepared to make those amendments to propose
And
the
they need to be
amendments
very
tonight.
minor in nature, please.
I mean, that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
We can work through that.
I don't know about the others. I'm prepared to make mine, so I can make a motion to amend. Sure.
Make your
Wait,
motion to
you're gonna make
amend.
a motion to amend?
Yes. Mayor, I make a motion to amend the zoning ordinance, and this is section 4.2.4, permitted uses. This is relative to the floodway overlay district for subsection 4.2.4, permitted uses, relative to section C, sports fields with no permanent structures other than fencing. Any fencing shall be located outside of the 10-year flood zone. For information, we already permit this on city sports fields. We just don't permit it not on city sports fields. This has no structures. These are just passive sports fields allowed in a flood zone. Again, fencing shall be outside of that 10-year
Why
thing.
is fencing up outside?
I'm not sure, but there was no argument about the fencing from anybody involved, so I'm good with that.
You've heard the proposed, was that a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Appropriate motion, second.
I have a quick question.
Now, wait, does
Why
this
would-
mean that
why-
we're not?
Why would the fencing have to be outside? I mean, fencing is fencing. It's not a permanent structure.
We're just trying to have the same rules we have for city playfields on non-city playfields.
All right.
You're just trying to have the same rules.
Okay.
I would
I didn't
not
know
go
if
down
they
that
were
road, because then you
flooded.
got to look at it on
All right.
ours and all
Okay.
that.
And flooding
If
is
you-
much more significant in the 10-year flood zone than in the 100-year flood zone.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
So,
It's on
so
you.
now what would be the result of voting for this amendment, though, in terms of all of the things that are going on
Use the
here?
land.
Because, I mean,
There is a specific plan
Oh, I understand.
to bring a major, a great sports complex to bear, and this would allow that to be able to happen. Any place that we do not want residential or building to happen. And so this would allow passive sports fields to happen, just like we've allowed for the city to happen on a private development.
But I mean, what is the effect, what effect is that going to have on all this other stuff that we're talking about?
Nothing.
No, I mean,
It means it's going to have to go back to the planning
That's
commission,
what
and
I'm
there's going to have to
thinking.
be a call meeting of the planning commission, if you can get them all together.
So
I mean, but-
we'll need to provide you with an answer if we can get that meeting scheduled by the 26th. And the 26th, if we have to pursue a different approach,
okay.
we can do that then. But this gives us the 2 weeks to try to get that scheduled and see if we can get 5 planning commissioners together between now and December 9th.
and
Well,
our regular meeting's going to be on December 12th.
Right, that's the
I mean,
unfortunate
the-
things, that the regular planning commission is after your final meeting of the year.
And we really need to try
Unless
to
you
get
want a
it
special meeting
before
later
the
in the year.
second meeting, because if they say no, you need to be able to consider it again. So that's why it really does need to be before your third and final reading.
Well, I'm going to make a comment that this is the first that I've heard about the amendment. I don't know about the other board members, so I'm a little taken back that we're adding this kind of at the last minute. I think it would have been better if we had all been able to have this and understand it better and read the thing, the reference sections you refer to. So-
It just kind of fell through. It was supposed to be in, and it just kind of fell through. That's all.
I understand.
I don't think.
Mr. Mayor,
So this is still on the amendment. Is there any more discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, I think if I may, I have a question on the amendment. I don't fully understand the urgency, and maybe I missed a further
There's a
explanation.
plan coming.
There's a plan coming, but what is driving the urgency where we're going to call the planning commission together in an urgent meeting?
You have to wait a year to do it the next time.
Can't do that.
If we don't get, that's what I was saying in the work session, if we don't get our,
get it in.
by the deadline, then you have to wait a whole year to change
Yeah.
the zoning
That's,
ordinance.
okay, thank you for connecting the dots for me.
Wait,
Patrick.
yeah, wait a whole year to change the
The
ordinance?
zoning ordinance. We do it once a
Okay, for
year.
Once a year.
We don't have to do that once a year. We can do it anytime.
They-
Well, I would agree,
Could they,
They don't let
could
us.
they,
but I don't.
You can do it, but there's a lot of complexity
There's a lot
about
of
entitlements and how you manage it. And you end up, when it gets approved, it's based on the zoning ordinance at the time. So we try to have one version for each year so that there's a consistent enforcement and implementation. Otherwise, you're dealing with multiple versions throughout the year that are approved in the same year.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do it, but
Can do.
administratively, it creates some significant challenges and potential confusion down the line.
And-
So it's not a no, but there are ramifications by having some confusion around what version was applied when.
Right, and you don't see the behind the scenes, but we start working at the beginning of January on the next year's ordinance update. We do all of our research and analysis during January through April, and we bring it to you for the May joint workshop, and we bring it to joint workshops up through through the fall, so that we can go through the approval process fall to December. We can do this other ordinance amendment should the planning commission not be able to convene. We could do one that hopefully could make it to the planning commission in February
Right,
for
right.
just these amendments that don't really require a lot of further study.
Right.
And we could get that approved in the spring. But we'll wait and, see how this plays out.
Okay. Okay.
Any other discussion on the amendment? You ready to vote on the amendment? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
no,
Alderman Peterson.
No.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Alderman, Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
The amendment passes 6-2. We'll now go back to the original motion as amended.
Have we
Yes.
had
Mr. Mayor.
a motion? Who made the original motion?
Jason and
Matt,
Patrick,
Denise?
yeah.
Okay.
Based on the comments from Alderman Potts, Vice Mayor Potts earlier tonight, we have a suggested motion, should he like to make it, for an amendment for telecommunication towers inside flagpoles. And I'll read that out, and
If you
you
wanna
can
do it.
decide whether you want to
Yes, go ahead,
make an
please.
amendment or not. It would be 5.1.4, point Y, point 6, point B. If the architectural structure is a flagpole, a flag shall be flown continuously on the pole.
Is that your motion?
Can I make the comment
Wait a minute.
or make the motion? Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would
This
make
is
the
an
motion.
amendment to the
A flag?
Yes, sir.
A flag,
Could you
24/7?
could you read that again? I'm sorry.
Yes.
And again, this is for telecommunications
Yes.
flagpole tower.
So this is in the aesthetics
Yeah.
section of the telecommunication towers. And the comment was about, would there be a flag required to be flown if the architectural structure is a flagpole? And the answer was no, that's not a requirement, but if you all would like that to be a requirement, we would just specify that if the architectural structure that the telecommunication tower is in is a flagpole, then a flag shall be flown continuously on the pole.
Does that mean day and night?
Yes, the flagpoles,
rain?
they're lit.
It-
They're
it's-
they're properly displayed the way that they're supposed to.
Nobody raised
And
them up now.
you're amending the original motion is amended, and I need a second.
Yes.
Second.
Second by Alderman Berger.
Okay.
Now,
Is
do
it-
you want to address it to any
Yeah.
further extent?
This is just a simple visual that we have. We have one major flagpole, or, excuse me, telecommunications flagpole that is at the top of the hill, and it's not Royal Oaks, I forget, it changes right there. But it's right there along the interstate, and many times it is bare, and it's
Yeah.
there. And I'm
It
thinking
is.
that if we're
It
going to
is.
have more telecommunications towers in the area that are going to be hidden via flagpoles, they should act as flagpoles.
What flag? May I ask? What
Yes.
flag?
Naturally,
Can we-
most of the
can
time,
we
it's all the,
designate what flag or not?
I don't know that you can designate, but most of the time that they're flying, they're all American flags.
And they're usually lit.
Yes.
Okay. So properly displayed.
Mr.
Yeah,
Mayor,
because didn't it, they used to have that.
I'd like to amend the motion, amend the amendment to require 4 flags on the pole.
Four?
Patrick.
Is there,
What'd you say?
he wants to amend the motion
Can I
to
have
include
one?
4 flags on the pole. And is there a second?
No.
Unfortunately, it
Your
died.
amendment dies because, for lack of a second.
I'm not going to now vote for some requiring flags and have our zoning administration going around checking flagpoles to seeing if there are flags on the poles when we have just gone through this
Oh, geez.
counting flags.
It's only
This is just, we've got
telecommunication
better
flagpoles.
things. I mean, I know, but it just is,
telecommunications.
I will be voting no.
And I'll defer to my good colleague and just say this is not about the count. This is
I
not about
understand.
anything like that. This is
It's about
a-
regulating
a
flags.
large telecommunications tower
Yeah,
that is
it's a
just a
telecom-
pole on top of a hill when it's designed to be a flagpole.
Yeah,
We'll make 'em have
may I also say something clarifying that it is a flagpole serving as a telecommunications. It's not just a flagpole that just sits there.
Correct.
Big difference. Big difference.
Any other discussion on the amendment to the original?
Mr. Mayor, I
motion?
have a question. In the examples that were demonstrated for the telecommunications, whatever you want to call structures, one example was this flagpole, and perhaps the board or the city has the ability to say, we don't want telecommunication flagpoles, so that we don't have to drive around and look at them and count to make sure they've got the
It's
proper number of
already
flags
there.
on them. I understand that one's already there, but moving forward, perhaps could we consider removing that if it's going to be this contentious?
How many
in our
are they
board?
going to put up? 100? Come on.
I'd like to call the question.
Yeah, amen.
Appropriate motion has been seconded by Alderman
Yes.
Berger. All in
With the name
favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ready to vote on the amendment to the original motion, which has been amended. Alderman Barnhill.
No.
Alderman Blanton.
No.
Alderman Caesar.
No.
Alderman Peterson.
No.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
No.
It fails 5-3.
So we get a
Now we're
stupid
back to the
poll.
original motion as amended. Any further discussion?
What are we
ready to vote.
voting on, Mr. Mayor?
The original motion is amended with the amendment from Alderman Brown.
What's that?
Back to what you.
Ready to vote?
It's so simple.
Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. We'll now go to item number 12, which is ordinance 2024-36 to amend the Franklin zoning ordinance text regarding materials, specifically materials in farmstead residential and use of wire fencing. Establish a public hearing November 26. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Peterson. Any
We
discussion?
stick the flagpole in here?
Ready to vote?
Yep.
Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman
Yes.
Berger. Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 13 is ordinance 2024-31 to rezone 2.55 acres from residential R2 district to Plan PD 11.76 district for the property located at the intersection of Carruthers Parkway and Dandridge Drive, located at 3595 Carruthers Parkway, the Lofsitz Community Housing Partnership PUD subdivision. Established a public hearing December the 10th. Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Potts. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 14 is Resolution 2024-92, a resolution authorizing the use of competitive sealed proposal procurement methods for preparation of a transit master plan for the Franklin Transit Authority. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Caesar. Any second?
Second.
Seconded Alderman Barnhill. Any discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Item 15 is City of Franklin Contract 2024-0315 with Franklin Special School District for leasing premises located at 507 New Highway 96 West for interim City Hall facility. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
And only one question. Does it match up, Eric, with the fire department? Will they have to be out of that before you get the place for them to go to?
Yeah, and all the indications are that timing's
They're
gonna
gonna be
work
gone.
well. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Any other questions or discussion? Ready to vote? Alderman Barnhill.
Yes.
Alderman Blanton.
Yes.
Alderman Caesar.
Yes.
Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Alderman Berger.
Yes.
Alderman Brown.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Potts.
Yes.
And Alderman Baggett.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Is there any other business to come before this body?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Appropriate motion seconded by Alderman Caesar. All in favor say aye.
Aye.